Welcome to Coffee Break with K.A. and Dana. We're brought to you by the Lesbian Talk Show. I'm K.A., a lesbian romance author, and in my past life, a counselor and a social worker.
And I'm Dana, an avid reader, coffee connoisseur, recovering alcoholic, and a graduate of the School of Hard Knocks.
Grab a cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and join us for a meaningful conversation from a lesbian perspective. Many of us think we have no time for hobbies. We're stretched to our limits, exhausted. And yet, dabbling in hobbies may be just what we need to enhance our lives and improve our health. According to Psychology Today, when aging researcher T.F. Hughes and colleagues examined how hobbies impacted people's lives, they found that engaging in hobbies for at least an hour a day protected against dementia later in life. It's been studied and proven time after time. Hobbies help the heart and the mind. In this episode, Kay and Dana will discuss hobbies, why you want them, and why they're good for you. Won't you join us for a meaningful conversation? So, we are talking about hobbies today, and I know when I tossed this topic out, you thought I jumped off the deep end. But I don't know about you, but as I got to reading and looking more closely at this topic, I think it's a good one.
I was surprised, and as far as you going off the deep end, it's not the first nor the last. But
I want to thank you for that. for sharing your true thoughts with our listeners.
Well, I always try and be honest. But, the thing about hobbies is anyone can do this, do something as far as a hobby goes.
Well, yeah. As a kid, we have all kinds of hobbies. But the thing is, I don't know about you, but as I got busy through the years, working long hours, on call at night, blah, 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 I carved out that little piece and replaced it with something productive.
And that's the thing about a hobby is probably 80% of them are productive. Now, some of the places that I was reading, they were listing as watching TV as a hobby, which I don't agree with, but I didn't write it. But for the most part, the hobbies make you get up and move your body and your mind.
Well, some hobbies do. Well, that TV, web searching, social media, I'm not sure that's just not a way to fill the time.
I think that's an escape route.
That's kind of how I see it too, although I do my share of it. Certainly not judging those who spend time doing it, but that to me, that's not quite a hobby. A hobby is something for me that's, I don't know, more active. You're more engaged in it, more like a project, or right. I don't know. There are lots of different things that would fall into the category, but
agreed.
I opened the show talking about the benefits of hobbies. So there are good reasons, even though you're painfully overwhelmed with job or kids or grandkids or whatever, there are good reasons to carve out an hour a day to do something fun that falls into that hobby category. Related to your health, specifically your heart and your mind. I mean, your heart functions better, the blood flows better. I mean, research studies have proven that. And if you're one of those folks that engages in a hobby for an hour a day, you might hold off dementia, Alzheimer's, because there's something to that. It's worth it.
It is worth it. And it's also worth it because it gets you thinking about something besides yourself. I kind of looked at the hobbies as healing. What hobbies could help you heal from trauma. And all of the research that I read indicates that using your brain making your brain think out of the box is the best thing to help heal from trauma.
Yeah, and that makes sense, really. Think about it, because when you're healing from trauma, you're all wrapped up in pain.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get engaged in something, I don't know, it could be anything, putting a jigsaw puzzle together. If you get engaged in an activity, you're not thinking about the pain quite as much as you were.
Right. Yeah, and just flipping the switch into going into the hobby, I think it helps people with trauma, because then they learn how to do that. You force yourself to do it when you start your hobby, but then it becomes a habit, and then you can use it in other directions. When your mind's going crazy, flip the switch.
Okay, so do you have hobbies? Do you do things that fall into hobbies? And so for now, let's remove web surfing, TV, Facebook, Twitter. Let's remove that and not call those hobbies. Do you have hobbies?
Sure.
An hour a day?
No. But I can tell you a new hobby that I'm going to try and get and do at least an hour a day, and that's walking. But my hobby, I love to do woodwork, and it's something that gets me out of myself. And at the end, I have something to see. I'm kind of, I'm an instant gratification person. I like to see that I've done something.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way, and that's kind of a creative, hands-on endeavor.
Yeah, and I think it's important for me because, well, one thing that's important to me, I hurt my hands when I was younger, and so I haven't done it lately, but when my hands really hurt, I crochet because it makes me use my hands and my fingers and helps loosen them up.
I used to want to crochet. My grandmother crocheted the most beautiful doilies, but I don't know, my wiring just wasn't made to crochet. So my doilies never looked like her doilies.
Well, and my doilies don't look like my grandma's doilies either.
But are they round? Are they circular?
Sometimes. Sometimes
mine had their own uniqueness.
Right, and that's just it. The hobbies we're going to mention, you don't fit everybody. My wife could no more sit down at the desk or the table and do woodworking than fly, because that's, as you said, that's not how she's wired.
So what does she like? What are her hobbies?
Well, she doesn't really have any at the moment. We're working on that for her to find a hobby.
Well, I can think of one if I break the TV rule just a little bit that I might call a hobby just because she does it almost religiously.
Watch football?
Can you watch football? That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
That is her hobby.
Well, and there's mindless TV surfing, and that to me isn't. But if you really are, an avid sports fan, and you follow a team, and you know the scores, and you know the standings, that uses your brain.
It does, and makes her heart race. So, it gets her heart rate up during the games. And so I suppose...
My wife loves to read history and presidential biographies, and loves CNN. And that TV thing kind of falls outside of the regular TV watching for me too, because she really thinks. She follows those commentators. She knows who they are, and she follows this politics. And I think politics and history are her hobby. So far, we've named solitary things. Have you noticed that?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, that's kind of what's happened to our society. At least that's what I was reading. In decades past, people used to belong to the PTA, or they'd have neighborhood potlucks, or some people still coach their kids softball or whatever, but activities, hobbies that got them out with people. And as a society, we're doing less of that. The hobbies that we do are more solitary kind of hobbies.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I had found about the reasons to get a hobby is so that you can foster new social connections and find a new posse that thinks like you do. I'm in a book club. There are 10 of us. We meet twice a month, and we're all there with the same intention. And I think that is also considered a hobby.
Yeah. And you know, in my head, I don't think of church as a hobby, but one article says it was. But I'm active. I mean, I'm really active. I'm vice president of the consistory. I chair a committee. I'm active. And that probably falls into that socialization kind of a hobby, the activity level of it. But mostly mine are solitary, too. Oh, well, I play bridge every week. I guess that's not solitary.
But do you really play, or do you just sit there and think about your characters while your wife's playing?
Well, now, that depends on the week, and it depends where I am in the book. You know, there are weeks that I'm very competitive and all about the bridge game. And then there are weeks that I'm thinking about the next scene.
Or texting, talking with me on the phone.
Yeah, right now, early in a book, I'm in the book. But
right.
But we have bridge opponents, so it's socialization, and trust me, you have to think a little bit to play bridge.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Even if you have characters on the brain.
And, you know, you'll never be as competitive as your wife. But I think...
No, because right behind history, CNN, and presidential biographies, it's bridge.
Yes. Anything, any card game. I've played cards with your wife. Any card game.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You did.
Yes.
You did.
So
yeah, she'd say she wasn't competitive, but she is, and that part of the game is kind of a hobby. Yeah,
absolutely.
Keeps her brain active and
it's one of those things, you know, we get so confined in these boxes of what our days are supposed to look like, what we're supposed to do, what we have to accomplish, you know, dot. And even at that, you're getting outside the box and thinking about something else and having another activity. And that's what I found a lot of when I was looking at, hobbies and healing. You know, it's really good for everybody needs a hobby, at least one. But
yes, and if you're going to do it for an hour a day, because, I mean, why not get the benefits out of it?
That seems a little excessive to me.
Oh, well, you know what? I got this new iPhone 10. Oh, my wife got it for me for our anniversary. And one of the things that I've got it doing is tracking my screen time, and I'm trying to reduce that. So just iPhone screen time. Do you know I was doing an hour and a half a day screen time on the darn iPhone? And
no.
I spend the rest, so many hours looking at a computer screen writing. And so I've been shaving some of that iPhone screen time down. I mean, there is no reason for that. Other than it's fun.
Yeah, But that's it, even if you can carve out 30 minutes.
Better than nothing. You're right.
Yeah, excuse me, because it's just the fact of making a different choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. And just because the studies say that an hour a day has these benefits, it doesn't mean that 30 minutes doesn't. It just means that hasn't been studied. So your heart and your brain can benefit by you getting a hobby. I took up a new one. My wife she got me this because I wanted it. But I wanted all the fancy gadgets to start making artesian homemade pizzas, the dough and all the gourmet pizzas. I've been having the most fun with that.
Really?
Oh my gosh, yes. I've been making some odd combinations.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
Spicy spinach. There's an artichoke one, and there's a Brussels sprout recipe I'm going to try. If the listeners could only see your expression. And I chose those pizzas just to get that reaction.
That just sounds nasty.
Oh my gosh. I'm having so much fun making the different crusts and stuff. And anyway, but kind of that cooking, that fancy cooking when I have time is something I like to do and kind of a hobby. So, how about we, just for fun, we might have listeners who don't have hobbies and are now thinking, okay, so maybe I might want one, but what am I going to do? How about we just toss a few ideas out to them to get their juices flowing and get them thinking. Okay, so I'll toss a couple out. Art, painting, photography, drawing, sculpture, those kind of things. You toss one.
Crochet or knitting?
Cool. Candle making.
Gardening.
Roasting coffee.
Coloring.
Collections like rocks or stamps or poodles, whatever.
Writing. Not as writing like a book, because we're not all going to write a book, but keeping a journal. Well,
I did my first career and I started writing because it was fun. I kind of fell in love with lesfic and started reading books about the craft. And, you don't rule out writing. We might have folks out there that want to give it a try.
Oh, yeah. If you want to write a book, write a book.
Yeah, that's a way to spend an hour a day.
Right.
How about fixing things, building things?
Okay. How about woodworking?
Which kind of the same. How about flower arranging?
I suck at that, but that, it's a hobby. Walking.
Gardening.
I said gardening.
Did you say gardening? All right, I'll throw you another one. How about building models? I used to like to do that as a kid. The cars, or even now they've got those Lego things, those really cool models that I have not bought, but they look fun.
They're expensive. They have little parts, and they're a pain in the ass. Just going to throw that out there.
So on the cover, they look fun, but they really might not be unless you're a listener who finds them fun.
Exactly. How about music?
Cool. Listening to it or making it.
I think there's a lost art, especially with people our age who used to do mixtapes off of the radio.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a great hour to spend listening to the music that you did. That one song you were just waiting for because you wanted it.
Yeah, times are different now, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
You go to iTunes and download it. Yeah, times are different. Soap making. My sister does this kind of as a hobby.
That's cool. Candle making?
Yeah. Theater. Join a theater group or a choir or something like that to perform.
Oh, that's a good one. Book clubs. Find people, who have an interest, same interest as you do, and start a book club. That's what we did. We have a recovery book club. Yeah.
Volunteering. That's something you could do for you and for someone else. Helps the world.
That's a great one. Anything you can do to be of service to others That's a really good hobby.
I think so too. That might be a good one to end on. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
You've been listening to Coffee Break with Kay and Dana, meaningful conversations from a lesbian perspective, brought to you by the Lesbian Talk Show. Be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and visit our website, www.coffeebreakwithkayanddana.com. Until next week, work hard, be kind to one another, and watch amazing things happen in your corner of the world.